Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today I've got an episode of Loadout, the series where you guys, the viewers, get to pick a gun and customization for me to use. The way you do this is you leave a comment down below letting me know what kind of weapon and accessories you'd like me to run with, and I will pick one of the top rated comments for the next episode. Now today's top comment was actually intended as a Battlefield 4 loadout, but it was based on a Battlefield 3 themed loadout, and I was trying it out in BF4 a bit, and I just wasn't really feeling it that much. Sure, I could have sunk tons and tons and tons of hours into playing it in BF4 and trying to find the silver lining of the loadout, but frankly, the UMP-45 and just PDWs in BF4 are so less effective because of the general map design and the netcode, etc. So I thought, there hasn't been a Battlefield 3 video on my channel for a while, why don't we explore just how effective this loadout was back in the day, back during Battlefield 3, when the engineer was actually a force to be reckoned with, regardless if you're running with a PDW or a carbine. So that being said, today's loadout comes from Miguel Angel Lacia. He says the classic BF3 engineer loadout. We're going to play the engineer, obviously. The UMP is the primary, Kobra Red Dot Sight, no accessories, a heavy barrel and vertical grip. Secondary is the M9 with an iron sights, laser sight, and suppressor, using an RPG, repair tool, M67 frag, and the ACB90. Now obviously there were a few things I couldn't replicate perfectly with the BF3 version of this loadout just because we didn't have all those accessory options, but I tried to make it as close as possible. And man, is it a breath of fresh air hopping back into BF3 after not playing it for a while. It's probably been at least 2 months since I've played BF3, and this game is just so solid, so much fun. It evokes all the good memories that I've had of playing Battlefield, the solidity of the engine, the fun of every single Conquest large map, and how you can play it as an infantry and get around and get a lot of good action all the time and not worry about just being dominated by vehicles 24/7. And even though I'm playing on a large open map, the UMP-45 is handling itself quite well. Sure, I'm not trying to engage people at too long of ranges, but even when I do, I usually have the jump on them and I'm able to take them down before they figure out where the fire's coming from, and they're able to take me out. Because granted, still a lot of assault rifles in BF3 are certainly going to outdamage your PDWs. However, in close quarters, the UMP-45 does excellent damage. In fact, it does better damage in BF3 for CQB combat than it does in Battlefield 4. It recently got that nerf in BF4 to do 33 damage only, whereas in Battlefield 3 it still does 34 damage, so you're going to get a 3-shot kill in Battlefield 3 where it's a 4-shot kill in Battlefield 4. Now, I really like the UMP-45, both in Battlefield games and outside of video games, because I think it's a really cool weapon, and if you know a little bit about the design history of it, it's just interesting to see the progression of weapons over time. It's made by H&K, and it was originally designed to kind of replace the MP5, the MP5 Navy, as some of you guys might know the weapon in some of the Battlefield games, or say Counter-Strike or something like that. But when H&K designed this weapon, not only did they make it cheaper to manufacture, it was also lighter weight, so easier to carry around, and you could shoot 45 ACP with it. They also had a 9mm version, had a couple different versions of this weapon, so by all means it was a pretty successful design. The MP5 never actually did stop its production though, a lot of people still wanted it, so both guns are still available, and in fact the MP5 is still one of the most widely used submachine guns in the world. But back to the UMP-45 and basically how it performs in the Battlefield games, it's almost identical between Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, aside from that damage model difference that I mentioned earlier about one being a 4-shot kill, the other being a 3-shot kill in extreme close quarters. The UMP-45 in Battlefield 4 has slightly less recoil than in Battlefield 3, although I find personally that I have a little bit easier of time getting kills with it in BF3, but that could be due to a lot of other things, namely the engine differences overall and just how it performs online. The damage drop off on this gun is probably one of the most important statistics to really know. It's going to affect you at range so much. As soon as you get beyond around say 40 meters, your damage in Battlefield 3 goes down to 12.5. Battlefield 4 it's a little bit higher at 15.4, but still you're not going to be doing a lot at range, and in addition to that you only have a 600 round per minute rate of fire. So your long range damage with this gun is negligible. You should really try and get in much closer to take advantage of just how much damage this gun can actually do. Once you do get into close quarters, especially in Battlefield 3, you can 2-shot somebody if you get a nice headshot and then a body shot, or a body shot and then a headshot. If you don't get any headshots, you can just hit them 3 times in the body and they go down. So sometimes you can drop people with this weapon so freaking fast they don't even really know what happened to them, and it doesn't give them a chance to return fire, which is especially important if you're playing the engineer class because you don't really have med packs available to you. So make sure you hang out around your assault class, which shouldn't be too hard, especially in Battlefield 3 considering just how powerful the assault class is. In both games it has a 1.85 second short reload, which really lends itself to close quarter combat. You can pop a mag out, pop it back in before anybody has a chance to move up on your position. In real life, the reload process is also extremely simple. The magwell is chamfered, so it's very easy to get a mag in there quickly. The Kobra Red Dot Sight, as many of you know, is one of my favorite red dot sights both in Battlefield 3 and in Battlefield 4, and it also really lends itself to the visual aesthetics of this gun. It's just low profile, it's slim, elegant, just as the UMP-45 is. Now I gotta say the map design in BF3 really caters to this class much more than BF4 does. As much as I like the aesthetics of the Battlefield 4 maps, they definitely do look a lot better than Battlefield 3 maps. Just the way you play them out gives you many more opportunities to go in close quarters, fight only infantry if you want to, and then kind of move to the outskirts and engage the vehicles. But you have just the choice as a player to stick in close quarters, go out to the outside of the map, engage people at long range, and that's not really going to work with the UMP-45. So you stick in close quarters. Battlefield 4, you have a lot less choices in how you want to play. The maps pretty much dictate the playstyle that's required of you, and PDWs just aren't going to cut it, especially for a lot of the bigger vehicle maps. I recommend playing maps that have a good mixture of buildings and vehicles. So the vehicles are used to kind of push up to the buildings, cover their infantry, and then once you get in close quarters, that's where engineers with PDWs are really effective. You can hide in the buildings, launch your RPGs from the buildings out to the vehicles, and basically take out any infantry that get in close enough to try and enter the buildings themselves. So this is a great way to play this class. You don't really want to be out in the middle of a big open field with the UMP-45. You can make it work if you're good enough, but it's really not going to do you any favors at longer ranges. This clip here on Tehran Highway with Rush, me defending, is a really great example of it because I'm just absolutely wrecking any infantry that gets close to this building here, and then even as this Jeep goes flying by, I manage to grab it with an RPG, take them out, and basically holding down the fort. Now as we transition into some Caspian Border gameplay, the UMP-45 becomes a little bit less useful because my average engagement range increases. Now if you're stealth enough and you figure out how to move around the maps in an intelligent way, you can kind of control your engagement distance better. It's a little bit tricky and you can't always go to all the capture points that you would like to. For example, running all the way out to a capture point is very risky because there's not a lot of cover. You have to cross open fields, and that's where you're at your biggest disadvantage. So sticking in close to some of the inner capture points like C, D, and E, those are good ones to use with the UMP-45. You can sneak around, get into buildings, move up, flank around the points, and engage your opponents when they're not expecting you and at closer ranges. And honestly, this is really one of the fundamental reasons of why I make weapon stat videos. You gotta know about how a gun performs and what it's good at in order to know what kind of gameplay style to take. If you pick up a UMP-45 without having any idea about what kind of round it fires, how fast the bullet travels, how much damage it does at range, then you might be playing trying to drop people at longer ranges and realizing way later or after the fact that the gun just is not good for that style of gameplay. So that really ultimately is one of the underlying reasons why I do these type of videos. You gotta know how a gun performs so you can cater your playstyle around it. Anyway, I really do miss the magic of Battlefield 3, just how much fun I had playing this game, and I had a lot of fun making this loadout video, and I highly recommend the UMP-45 provided that you use it correctly. As always guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing out.